a scourge. It is an insult to the integrity of sports and to the dedication of the fans. And it is in almost all cases the right thing to do. I cannot reasonably blame any team that cannot reasonably expect to win a championship for trying to lose. Because right now, losing big is the second best thing you can do in sports, and that needs to change. You know that it's a problem in basketball. Did you know it might actually be killing baseball? Let me give you some numbers. Last year, 8 teams lost at least 95 games. That's the most ever. That's the reason that 3 teams in the American League won 100. That had never happened before. Those two things are obviously tied together. The Red Sox went 16-3 against the Orioles, who shamelessly lost 115 games. The Indians won the Central by going 22 games over 500 inside the division. They were under 500 against everyone else. It is madness, but it works. The Cubs lost 286 games in Theo Epstein's first 3 years. The Astros lost 100 games in 3 straight seasons. One of them, their entire payroll was $26 million. Now, you may say, look at those teams now. Yes, but what about the cost to the sport? All of these meaningless games have had an impact. In the last decade, attendance has dipped by nearly 10 million fans. So we can talk about pitch clocks and reliever usage and replay and strike zone enforcement and all of those things. Maybe they aren't the problem. Maybe fans didn't stop coming because the game is taking too long. Maybe they stopped coming because their team isn't trying to win. That's what I think. Let me take this to the table, and I got a good array of opinion here from people in different sports and who cover different sports and play them. But Tex, I'll start with you because it's baseball and it comes from where you come from. Do you view this as the problem I view it as?
I do think it's a problem in baseball. You have the Red Sox last year. Best team in baseball won the World Series, $220 million payroll. The Orioles, 115 losses, $60 million payroll. In baseball, you can have these wide ranges of what you can spend. So teams can literally just trade everybody away, not spend anything, and have the worst team in baseball. Look at what the Orioles and the Marlins are going to draw this year in attendance. It's going to be awful, and that's the problem that you're talking about. Fan bases are getting completely alienated by this tanking.
You know, Zach, you had a really fascinating take on this in basketball as far as the draft. Everyone's not trying for Zion, and I've been trying to figure out ways for years to redo the draft. And to give the league credit, they've made some changes in the lottery, so the bottom 3 teams all have the same chance. That isn't solving the problem. You had an interesting look at this a couple of years ago about a way they could maybe completely revamp the system.
Yeah, the assistant general manager of the Celtics, Mike Zarin, proposed an idea called the wheel, where teams cycle through the 30 draft spots, and this is a basic explanation, but year by year by year in a not random, but kind of jumbled order. So the idea is there is no connection between your record and where you pick. None. And I think it's a creative solution because as long as there's a connection between your record and where you pick, you can play with the odds, you can play with whatever, you can play with the weighting. There's still going to be an incentive to lose somewhere, whether it's up the top or in the middle, there's still going to be an incentive to lose. That's one solution where there would not be any incentive to lose.
Jalen, how big a problem do you think this is for the NBA?
Well, it's unique for the NBA, and it's a lot different for baseball to me. Here's why. Because baseball doesn't have a salary cap. Therefore, those owners can choose to spend or not choose to spend. It's their choice. In basketball and football, for that matter, with the salary cap, and I've talked about this a lot, the anchor of your team is going to be usually somebody you drafted. That's just how it works. I wrote down some guys that won multiple championships with teams. They were all draft picks since Magic and Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, Kobe, like all Steph Curry. Like, that guy becomes your anchor. So if you look at your squad and you know you don't have a superstar, the only way you could get one is kind of like having a quarterback on his rookie deal in the league, is to draft one.
I believe that taking has a direct correlation to what we've seen in the NBA, where fans are not fans of teams anymore in regions because you go through a spell where your team is actually terrible, like Philadelphia had to do through the process. You're a fan of players, you know what I mean, and where they're going and the moves that a team is making to acquire certain assets. And I think that's what we're seeing in basketball. I don't know if it translates to baseball and every other sport, but I think that's why we're seeing it in a way.
We just don't see it a lot in football. I mean, it's because the reality is football coaches get fired in a year a lot of times. We just saw it with the Cardinals last year with Steve Wilkes. They weren't trying to tank, but hey, it wasn't good enough for a year and you're gone. And I think there's a reality that football also has a floor that they have to spend. So that creates a little bit more parity with teams. Like, you can't have a payroll variance like they do in baseball. You know, like, you have to spend a certain amount of dollars, and then you can't spend more than a certain amount of dollars. And so it creates that level playing field. I know, Greeny, you kind of think that the Browns did it in a way in football. Sashi Brown, the guy who I guess in a way orchestrated it, isn't there.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think of the basketball with the Sixers, and Hinkie's not there. The guys who did it weren't. So I don't know if it's really paying dividends for teams. We don't get it a lot in the NFL.
Here's my question. The uncomfortable question is this. For all the fixes in the NBA, where one superstar, and that's the difference in the NBA, one superstar is everything in the NBA. It's your whole team for 20 years. If you want to eliminate tanking and do away with the reverse order draft and all that, you have to be okay in a year, and every maybe 5 or 6 years, where like the Warriors get Zion Williamson or the Thunder get Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
Some people are okay with that. Reward the best teams. That's okay. That's part of the system. But I just have a feeling if that ever happened, there would be a lot of fans who would say, oh my God, what did we just do?
I think it puts more pressures on coaches too. Like, you've got to have a staff that can develop players then too, because you can't just bank on, hey, we got the first pick, so we got the best player and we're good.
Or it's
like,
the exact
you gotta
opposite.
be able
I
to
think
develop.
we're taking the eye off of development of players. We're missing that now.
Yeah.
It's either like our team sucks, we tanked, they're not good enough, it's
Let's
not
get a
going to
guy
work.
really good.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's go
No
get someone
effort.
that's- Yeah.
And look, I mean, if you just look no further than the NBA, you got 2 of the 3 biggest cities in America, New York and Chicago. They will have played 164 meaningless games this year. They will have played 164 games that their team is not trying to win. Jalen, it's not okay.
But also, you just spoke to an attitude that happens in sports that a lot of is fueled by the media, is that everything is meaningless. No, it's not for Chicago. They have Markkanen, who's
they
terrific.
have some young
They have
players.
Levine, who's terrific. These are guys that they're going to build around in the future with the draft pick they hope to get this year.
Knicks don't have that.
Correct.
The Knicks don't have that. All right, we have much more to do. I hope that everyone enjoyed that conversation. I think it is the single biggest issue that we deal with in sports right now. Coming up next, that man won the Heisman last year. Who's the favorite to win it this year? You'll find out next.